I woke up to a monitor beeping beside my bed. At first, I did not know where I was. My mouth was dry. My throat felt scraped raw. My arm was bruised where the IV tape had been. A curtain was half pulled around me, and beyond it, I heard my daughter-in-law's voice, cold, clear, too comfortable. As soon as the old woman wakes up, she goes straight to a nursing home. My son said, "Mallory, she might hear you." "She does not even know what room she is in," my daughter-in-law said. "Call it rehab if you have to. Once she is placed, she will settle." I wanted to open my eyes. I wanted to say her name, but something inside me stayed still. If I spoke too soon, they would call me confused. If I cried, they would call me delirious. So I lay there, breathing softly, pretending the coma still owned me. Welcome to Family Rise Tales. Tell me where you are watching from tonight, and what time it is where you are. If you are listening late, please rest when your body asks you to. Your health matters more than any story. Before I tell you where I went, you need to know why that passport mattered. Because the next morning, they came to take me from the hospital. But my bed was empty, my passport was gone, and the only thing left on my pillow was a letter. My name is Miriam Cole. I was 69 when my daughter-in-law decided my life would be easier if I stopped having a say in it. Before that hospital bed, I was not helpless. I was a retired school office secretary in Providence, Rhode Island, and I had spent 28 years behind a desk where emergencies began with a form somebody forgot to sign. Children came in with fevers. Parents called about attendance. Nurses asked for medication permission. Teachers sent notes folded until the paper looked tired. I knew signatures. I knew emergency contacts. I knew the difference between helping fill out a form and putting your name where mine belonged. That work made me plain, but it did not make me small. My husband had been gone for years. My son, Bryce, was my only child. I raised him through double shifts, broken cars, fundraisers, and winters when the heat bill made me sit at the table with my coat still on. I loved him hard, maybe too hard. When Bryce married Mallory, I tried to welcome her. She was organized, polished, and quick with language. She managed a dental office, so she understood insurance codes, phone menus, and paperwork that made people feel foolish. At first, I admired that. Mallory could call a company and sound like she owned the building. She could say coverage review and care option without blinking. She never yelled when a whisper would do more damage. Bryce worked as a logistics supervisor. Long hours, early mornings, phone always buzzing. He was a good man in the way. Quiet men sometimes are good, until silence becomes the thing that hurts people. Then there was Tara, my granddaughter, 16 years old, soft, always carrying a notebook. When she was small, she sat at my kitchen table cutting pictures while I made tea. "Grandma," she once told me, "you make ordinary days feel decorated." I kept that sentence like a jewel. For years, I postponed my own life because somebody needed me. Bryce needed help with a car payment. Tara needed rides after school. Mallory needed a sitter when work ran late. The church needed volunteers. Beverly Knox, my oldest friend, kept asking me to take that coastal trip we talked about. Maine first, maybe Nova Scotia later. "You have a passport, Miriam," Beverly would say. "Let it see daylight before it expires." I would laugh and tell her, "Next spring." Next spring became a habit. Still, I kept my passport in a burgundy folder with my important papers. Not because I planned to run, because a woman who worked near records knows emergencies do not wait for people to get organized. In that folder were copies of my ID, Medicare card, medication list, and Leah Boone's card. Leah was an elder law attorney I met after a church friend nearly lost her voice after surgery because her family spoke over her. Leah told me something I never forgot. "Choose your trusted contact while nobody is fighting," she said. In a crisis, the loudest person often gets heard first. So I chose Beverly. Not because I loved Bryce less, because Beverly had no reason to benefit from my silence. Mallory noticed little things before I wanted her to. She asked once, "Would it be easier if Bryce was your main medical contact now?" I looked up from folding dish towels. "Why would that be easier?" "For everyone," she said. "You know, if something happens." There it was. If something happens. A small phrase dressed like concern. I told her I already had my papers handled. She smiled. "Of course. I just hate thinking of you managing things alone." That sounded kind. It also sounded like a hand testing a doorknob. Older mothers are taught to keep peace until peace starts eating them alive. That night, I opened the burgundy folder and checked every page. Passport, ID copy, medication list, Leah Boone's card, Beverly Knox listed clearly. My own handwriting on the front page. If I am awake and capable, no facility placement without a private conversation with me. I did not know then that those words would travel farther than any trip I had postponed. I only knew Mallory had asked one question too smoothly. And later, I would understand she was not trying to make things easier. She was looking for the first door into my decisions. Mallory did not begin with cruelty. That would have been easier to see. She began with phone calls, folders, and that careful voice people use when they want control to look like service. After my fever started coming and going, she offered to help me with appointments. "I understand medical billing," she said. "Let me take one thing off your plate." I was tired enough to be grateful. That is how many doors open. First, she asked for my medication list so she could keep it updated. Then she asked whether I had patient portal access. Then she wanted the pharmacy number. Then she said Bryce should know my login, just in case. Just in case is a small phrase. It can fit inside any room. One Saturday, she came over with a folder labeled Care Options. It had tabs in soft colors: home safety, medication, transportation, temporary rehab. I looked at that last tab longer than the others. "Rehab?" I asked. "Only information," Mallory said. "Nobody wants to wait until a crisis." Bryce stood by the window, rubbing his thumb over his phone case. "Mom, she is only trying to make things easier." "Easier for whom?" I did not say it. Not then. I had a low fever that day, and my back ached from sleeping wrong. Arguing felt like climbing stairs with wet shoes. Mallory sat across from me and smiled like a woman conducting a meeting. If you ever needed a short stay after a hospital visit, it would not mean anything bad. It would just be support. "Planning is different from deciding," I said. Her smile stayed. "Of course." But her pen kept moving. That was what bothered me. She wrote while I spoke, as if my words were background noise to the plan on her page. A week later, I called my clinic to confirm a follow-up. The receptionist said, "I see Mallory Cole listed as family contact. Is that correct?" For a moment, my kitchen went quiet. Who added that? There was a pause. It may have been updated during your last call with your family. My family. That phrase can hide many fingerprints. I told the receptionist to leave a note that no changes were to be made without my direct permission. Then I hung up and sat with my hand on the phone. I should have called Leah Boone that minute. I should have called Beverly. Instead, I called Bryce. He sounded exhausted. "Mom, Mallory was probably just helping. She handles forms all day. You know how she is. I know how I am too," I said, "and I did not authorize it." Silence. Then he said, "Can we not make this a fight?" That hurt more than if he had argued, because he was not asking for peace. He was asking me to swallow the problem so he would not have to taste it. That evening, Tara texted me a picture of a recipe card I had given her. "Grandma, Mom says you might need a place with nurses after this. Is that like rehab?" I stared at the screen. A child should not have to learn the vocabulary of losing her grandmother before anyone has asked the grandmother. I typed back. "Rehab is for healing. Home is still my plan." She sent a heart. Then another message came. "Mom says plans change when people get older." I did not answer right away. There are moments when you feel someone entering your house through a word, not a window, not a door. A word, placement, care, safety. All clean enough to pass in public, all sharp enough to cut in private. The infection got worse before I admitted it. Older women are dangerous that way. We will tell everyone else to see a doctor, then sit on our own symptoms like they are bad weather. By the time Beverly drove me to urgent care, my skin felt hot and strange. The nurse took one look at me and sent me to the hospital. Providence blurred around me, fluorescent lights, a wheelchair, a bracelet snapped around my wrist. Bryce arrived near midnight, still in his work jacket. His face softened when he saw me. "Mom," he whispered, "you scared me." I wanted to believe that fear would make him brave. Mallory came in behind him with her purse and her folder. Not flowers. A folder. She spoke to the nurse station in that polished voice of hers, asking about insurance, discharge planning, and whether a social worker would be assigned. I remember turning my head on the pillow. "Why are you asking about discharge? I just got here." Mallory looked at me kindly. "Because hospitals ask families these things, Miriam." Families, not patients. The fever rose. Antibiotics dripped into my arm. Someone said infection. Someone else said complications. I heard Bryce telling Tara on the phone that Grandma needed rest. Then voices began floating away from me. Mallory's came last. Outside my room, she said, "If she gets worse, we need to be ready before she starts refusing help." Bryce answered, but his words were muddy. I tried to lift my hand. I could not. Ready for what? That question followed me down into the dark. Waking up from a coma is not like the movies. There was no music, no sudden sitting up, no clear moment where the world returned and apologized for leaving. For me, it came back in pieces. A beep, a light, a dry crack in my throat. The heavy pull of my own arms lying beside me like they belonged to somebody else. I did not know how many days had passed. I did not know what my hair looked like, whether Tara had been crying, or how many times Bryce had stood at my bedside pretending not to be scared. I only knew I was in a hospital room, and the curtain beside my bed was half drawn. Not closed, not open, half. That curtain became the first witness. Beyond it, voices moved low. Mallory's voice was easy to recognize. She had a way of speaking softly that somehow took up more space than shouting. "Call it rehab in front of her," she said. "People don't fight rehab." Bryce answered, "Mom always said she wanted to go home." "Home is not safe," Mallory said. "You heard the doctor. She is weak. She will need help with everything." "Maybe home health could—" "Bryce, I cannot be the person cleaning up every fall, every pill mistake, every emergency while your family calls me selfish." The room went quiet. I hated that part because some of it was true. I was weak. I would need help. I had scared them. A lie with no truth in it is easy to throw away. A lie with a little truth sits down beside you and starts sounding reasonable. Bryce said, "It's just temporary, right?" Mallory breathed out. "Temporary if that makes everyone feel better?" I kept my eyes closed. My heart was not loud, but I felt it everywhere. She was not talking about recovery. She was talking about placement. I knew that word. I had seen it in school files when children were moved from one program to another by adults who said it was best. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it was just easier for the adults. Then Mallory said the sentence that made me understand this was no hallway complaint. Silas said discharge needs a safe plan. If the chart shows confusion, facility approval gets easier. Silas, a name inside the hospital, not family, not opinion, system. I wanted to open my eyes then. I wanted to say, "I hear you. I know what room I am in now. I know exactly who is confused, and it is not me." But my mouth would not help me, and my mind, thank God, did. If I spoke too soon, Mallory would bend over my bed with that smooth face and say, "See, she is agitated." If I cried, she would say, "She is disoriented." If I reached for Bryce, he might hesitate long enough for her to answer for both of us. So I stayed still. That was not weakness. That was strategy wearing a hospital gown. Their footsteps moved away. The curtain fluttered when the door opened, then settled again. I waited until the room became quiet enough to hear the wheels of a cart in the hall. Only then did I try to move my fingers. One finger. Just enough to prove to myself I was still inside my own body. Pain answered first, then control. Small, precious, mine. I opened my eyes a little. The ceiling tiles blurred. The light hurt. A plastic bag of fluid hung beside me. My wrist had a hospital bracelet, and the name printed on it was still mine. Miriam Cole. That mattered. Names matter. I had spent almost 30 years in a school office spelling children's names correctly because the world will misplace a person fast if the paperwork starts wrong. Now I stared at my own name and promised myself nobody would file me away without asking me first. A nurse came in near midnight. She had kind eyes, but I did not trust kindness alone anymore. Her badge said Della Pike. She checked the monitor, then my IV, then leaned closer. "Mrs. Cole?" I did not answer. Not yet. "Can you hear me?" My throat burned. I moved one finger against the sheet. Her eyes changed. Not dramatically, professionally. She saw me. "All right," she whispered. "Take your time." I wanted to tell her everything. Mallory, rehab, Silas, confusion, Bryce's silence. But all I could do was blink. Della lowered her voice. "Do you want family called in?" Every part of me wanted my son. Every wise part of me knew my son was not the safest person in that room anymore. I blinked no. Della watched carefully. "No family?" I blinked yes. She took a breath, then reached for a notepad. "Can you try to write?" My fingers trembled when she placed the pen between them. The letters came crooked, almost childish. No family. Then, after resting, I wrote one more word. Advocate. Della read it. Then she looked at me, not with pity, but respect. "I understand," she said. "I will document that you requested a private patient advocate conversation." The curtain beside us hung quiet, but I knew better now. Curtains do not keep secrets. People do. That night, I stopped praying to be rescued. I started planning to be heard. Della Pike did not save me by breaking rules. That matters. People like to imagine rescues as dramatic things. A wheelchair rolling down a back hallway, a friend sneaking you past a nurse station, somebody whispering, "Go now." Real life is usually quieter. Real life is a nurse noticing one finger move when everyone else has already decided you are too weak to speak. Della stood beside my bed with the notepad in her hand. The words I had written looked ugly. No family. Advocate. My letters slanted down like they were tired, too. She did not ask me to explain everything at once. She checked my pulse, lowered the bed rail enough to reach me safely, and adjusted the blanket around my shoulders. Then she said, "Mrs. Cole, I am going to ask yes or no questions. Blink once for yes. Keep your eyes closed for no. If you need me to stop, squeeze my finger." I blinked. Yes. "Do you know your name?" I blinked. "Is your name Miriam Cole?" Blink. "Are you in the hospital?" Blink. "Do you want your son brought in right now?" I closed my eyes. That one hurt. Della waited. She did not fill the silence with her opinion. She let my answer stand even though it was painful. "No family right now," she said. I blinked. Her pen moved over the charting tablet. Patient responsive, follows commands, requests no family present, requests patient advocate. Those words were not poetry, but they were oxygen. For hours, I had been lying there with other people arranging my future outside a curtain. Now, one nurse was putting my own will into the record. Della leaned closer. "I cannot promise you everything will be easy," she whispered, "but I can promise I heard you." That was the first kind sentence I trusted. She gave me ice chips, one at a time. They melted on my tongue like small pieces of mercy. "These hospital socks," she said, glancing at my feet, "are proof they want patients humbled before they send the bill." Della smiled. "There you are." There I was. Not all the way, but enough. When she stepped out, I watched the doorway like it was a cliff edge. Every sound in the hallway made my muscles tighten. Wheels, shoes, a phone ringing, a man asking for ice, a woman crying somewhere far enough away to be invisible, close enough to feel. I had never felt so exposed. I stayed still and listened. Sometime before dawn, Bryce came to the doorway. Della intercepted him. "She's resting," she said. "I am her son." "I understand. Can I just see her?" "Not right now." His voice lowered. Is she worse? No. She requested rest. There was a pause so long I could hear my own monitor. Then Bryce said, Mallory said the discharge planner needs to know what we are doing. Della answered calmly, the patient advocate will be involved after shift change. Another pause. Advocate? Yes. Bryce did not come in. That should have relieved me. It did not. Because a son who stays outside a door can still fail you inside his heart. I turned my face toward the window. The glass reflected the room back at me in faint shapes. Pole, curtain, bed rail, a woman I almost did not recognize. But my eyes were open. That counted. Della returned before sunrise with a clean page. Can you write one more thing? My fingers were stiff. She placed the pen carefully. I wrote slowly. Beverly. Then, after resting, I added, folder. Della looked at the words. Is Beverly a person? I blinked. Trusted contact? Blink. Does she have important documents? Blink. Della wrote that down too. She did not touch my belongings bag without permission. She'd not call Beverly on her own authority while pretending paperwork did not matter. She followed the path that would hold up later. That is what made her good. Not rebellion. Respect. Near shift change, the room brightened from gray to pale yellow. Della checked my blood pressure again. Her face had the tired kindness of women who have worked through too many nights and still remember why they started. April Nash is the patient advocate on this morning, she said. I left a note and spoke to the charge nurse. She will come as soon as she can. I closed my eyes, not to refuse her, but because relief can be heavy too. Della touched the side rail once. If your family comes in before then, you do not have to perform strength. You hear me? Just breathe slow and let me do the talking. I blinked. She took the paper with no family and advocate and placed it where it could be seen by staff, not by visitors. A small thing, a boundary. Outside the room, I heard Mallory's voice again, polished and near. We just need to know when she can be moved. Della looked at me. The hallway grew quiet. Then she turned toward the door. She did not look frightened. That helped me borrow courage. Mallory stepped in with Bryce behind her, holding her phone like it was another folder. Why does that say advocate? Bryce asked. Della moved closer to my bed. Mrs. Cole requested a private patient advocate conversation. Mallory's smile tightened. She just woke up. She does not know what she is requesting. She followed commands, Della said. She made a clear request. Mallory looked at me then, not with fear, with calculation. Miriam, she said softly, we are only trying to help. I stared at the ceiling, breathing slow. Bryce whispered, Mom? I wanted to answer him. I wanted him to remember I was still his mother, not a problem waiting for placement. But my throat would not carry that pain. So I moved one finger. Just once. Bryce saw it. Mallory saw it too. For the first time, her control slipped. Della said, the advocate will be here after shift change. Until then, Mrs. Cole rests. The door closed behind them, and I understood something with perfect clarity. The first person to believe I was still inside my body was not my son. By morning, I was strong enough to hold a cup with both hands. That sounds like a small victory. It was not. When your body has been silent for days, even lifting water to your mouth feels like signing your own name again. Della stayed near the foot of the bed, checking the monitor without hovering. She had that gift some nurses have, making you feel watched over without making you feel owned. Then a man stepped into my room carrying a folder. He wore a hospital badge. Silas Ward. "Good morning, Mrs. Cole," he said. "I am with discharge planning." Discharge. That word should have meant going home, but in his hands it looked like something else. Della's eyes moved to me first, not to Silas. To me. That mattered. Silas pulled a chair closer, careful and professional. He did not seem cruel. That almost made the situation worse. Cruel people are easy to resist. Polite systems can move you while smiling. "We are reviewing safe discharge options," he said. "Your family mentioned concerns about home safety." My fingers tightened around the cup. "Family?" I whispered. My voice came out thin, but it came out. "Your daughter-in-law provided some information," he said. "She said stairs may be difficult, medication management may be a concern, and that there may not be a consistent caregiver available." Della stepped closer. Silas opened the folder. There it was. My name. Miriam Cole. Printed on a facility packet I had never seen. The first page said, "Temporary rehab options." The next page said, "Skilled nursing." The page after that had a line about long-term care evaluation if home discharge was not appropriate. Long-term. That word sat on the paper like a locked door. Silas turned another page. Family contact. Mallory's number was highlighted. Not Bryce's. Mallory's. Below that, a box had been checked. Home unsafe/caregiver unavailable. I stared at it until the letters blurred. "Who checked that?" I asked. Silas hesitated. That was based on information provided during family discussion. Family discussion. I was in the bed. My body was the subject. My future was on that paper. But somehow I had not been invited to the discussion. Della said, "Mrs. Cole requested a private advocate conversation." "Yes," Silas said. "I saw the note." He looked uncomfortable then. Not guilty. Uncomfortable. There is a difference. Uncomfortable means a person has reached the edge of what they assumed was simple. I lifted my hand toward the notepad. Della placed it gently beside me. My letters shook. Private advocate. No family decisions. Silas read it. His face changed. "Mrs. Cole, do you understand what this packet is regarding?" I nodded. Then I forced the words out. "Placement." The room went still. That was the first time I said the word aloud. Silas closed the folder halfway. "Nothing is finalized," he said. "This is preliminary." "Preliminary can become permanent," I whispered. He did not argue. That told me he knew. "Before I tell you what was inside my passport folder, tell me something. If you woke up in a hospital and heard your family planning a nursing home without asking you, who would you call first? Your child, a patient advocate, or an attorney? Write child, advocate, or attorney in the comments. Because I learned that day. Being weak in a hospital bed does not mean your life belongs to the loudest person in the hallway. A knock came at the door. A woman stepped in with a calm face and a clipboard of her own. "Mrs. Cole? I am April Nash, patient advocate." Mallory would have hated her voice, not because it was loud, because it was steady. April looked at Silas. "I need to speak with Mrs. Cole privately." Silas stood at once. "Of course." He gathered the packet, but April lifted one hand. "Leave it, please." For the first time, that folder stopped belonging to other people's plans. It became evidence. Silas left. Della stayed near the door, only because I nodded when April asked if I wanted her there. April pulled the chair close. "Mrs. Cole, I am going to ask you plainly. Do you want your daughter-in-law making medical or discharge decisions for you?" No woman should have to answer that while wearing hospital socks, but I was grateful someone finally asked. Della placed the pen in my hand. I wrote one word: no. April waited. She did not soften it for me. She did not say, "Maybe you mean not right now." She let no mean no. Then she asked, "Do you want your son making those decisions without speaking to you privately first?" That hurt worse. Bryce was my child, my only child. The boy I had raised through snow mornings and cheap dinners. The man who had looked at me from the doorway like he wanted to help, but had forgotten how to choose me. I closed my eyes. Then I wrote, "No." April nodded once. "Do you have someone you trust who is not your son or daughter-in-law?" My hand trembled. "Beverly." I wrote her name slowly, each letter feeling like a rope tied to shore. "Beverly Knox." April asked, "Is she able to help with discharge planning?" I nodded. "And do you have any legal or medical documents naming her?" I closed my eyes for one breath. The burgundy folder, the passport, the instructions Leah Boone had told me to write before fear entered the room. I wrote 2 words: passport folder. April read them. Della read them. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then April said, "All right, Mrs. Cole, we are going to slow this down and do it properly." I kept breathing, slowly. Outside the room, a phone rang. A cart rolled past. Somewhere in the hallway, Mallory's voice rose and fell, polished as ever. But inside my room, the first door had opened. April placed her hand on the facility packet. "Before anyone moves you anywhere," she said, "we are going to find out what you already put in writing." April Nash did not rush me. That was the first thing I noticed. Everyone else had been moving around me as if speed could decide truth. Forms, phone calls, hallway voices, family concerns wrapped in professional words. April sat down and let the room breathe. "Mrs. Cole," she said, "I need to understand what you understand, not what your family believes, not what anyone has assumed. You." The word landed gently. You. After days of being discussed like a room that needed cleaning, that one word almost made me cry. Della stood near the door with her arms folded, not blocking anyone, just present. Silas had left the packet on the rolling table. It sat there with my name on it, waiting like a suitcase packed by somebody who never asked where I wanted to go. April began with simple questions. "What is your full name?" My throat scraped when I answered. "Miriam Cole." "Do you know where you are?" "Hospital. Providence." "Do you know why you were admitted?" I swallowed. "Infection. Complications. Fever." She nodded, making notes. "Do you understand that discharge planning means deciding where you can safely recover after the hospital?" "Yes." "Do you want to be placed in a nursing home or long-term facility based only on your family's request?" My hand found the pen before my voice found strength. "No." The letters came firmer that time. April looked at the page, then back at me. Do you understand the difference between short-term rehab and long-term placement? That question mattered. It was the hinge. I had heard Mallory bend those words until one could hide inside the other. Rehab is for healing, I whispered. Placement is where people put you when they stop asking. Della's eyes lowered for a second. April wrote that down. Not every sentence has to be legal language to tell the truth. She asked if I knew the month. I missed the exact date, but I knew spring had come. I knew Tara would be finishing school soon. I knew my house still had a loose porch rail Beverly had been pestering me to fix. I knew enough to know my own life. April said, "You are tired, but your answers are consistent." "I am weak," I said. "That is not the same thing as incapable." I closed my eyes. Sometimes justice is not a gavel. Sometimes it is one sentence said by a person who finally knows the difference. A doctor came in later, a woman with tired eyes and kind firmness. April explained that I had requested private discharge involvement. The doctor checked my orientation again, my breathing, my pain level, and whether I understood the risks of going anywhere too soon. I did not pretend I was fine. That would have been foolish. I told her I could not walk alone yet. I told her my legs felt full of sand. I told her I was afraid of falling, afraid of being rushed, afraid of waking up somewhere with my own name missing from the decision. The doctor listened. "Mrs. Cole," she said, "you are not medically ready to leave this minute, but you are able to participate in decisions about your discharge plan." Able. There it was. A door opening in the chart. Silas returned after April called him. His expression was different this time, less certain, more careful. "Mrs. Cole," he said, "I want to clarify that the facility packet was preliminary." "Preliminary," I repeated. He heard the weight I put on it. "I understand your concern," he said. "I will update the notes to reflect that you requested no family-directed placement and that any discharge plan requires your direct participation." Mallory would not like that. For the first time since I woke, I felt a spark of strength. Not enough to sit up. Enough to stay. April asked, "Who do you want contacted?" "Beverly Knox." "Spell it for me." I did, slowly, carefully. Beverly had sung alto in our church choir for 30 years and could slice through nonsense. She was the kind of friend who remembered where you kept extra keys, but never used them without permission. That difference meant everything. April called from the room. When Beverly answered, April introduced herself and explained only what I allowed. Then April held the phone near my ear. "Beverly," I whispered. There was a sound on the other end, not a gasp exactly, more like a prayer catching itself before it broke. "Miriam?" "I'm here." "I know you are," she said. "I have your folder." My eyes opened. April glanced at me. Beverly continued, "You told me if anyone ever tried to make decisions while you were too weak to argue, I was to bring the burgundy folder and call Leah Boone. I have both. And my car has gas." Della made a sound that might have been a laugh if the room had been less serious. For the first time, I almost smiled. "Thank you," I whispered. "No," Beverly said. "You thank yourself. You're the one who prepared." After the call, April asked, "Do you want Beverly listed as your trusted contact for discharge discussions?" Yes. Do you want your daughter-in-law involved? No. Do you want your son involved without a private conversation with you first? I looked toward the door. Somewhere beyond it, Bryce was probably pacing or letting Mallory talk for him. I loved my son. I still do. Love does not vanish just because trust gets injured, but love had not protected me in that room. Not without me, I said. April wrote it exactly. Not without me. Those 3 words felt heavier than any signature. Later, Bryce tried to come in alone. Della asked me first. I shook my head. Not yet. His shadow crossed the crack beneath the door. "Mom?" he called softly. I turned my face away. Not because I hated him, because if I looked at him before I was strong enough, I might forgive his silence too cheaply. April stayed another few minutes. "Mrs. Cole," she said, "when Beverly arrives, do you want us to review whatever documents you have?" "Yes." "And if those documents name someone other than Bryce or Mallory?" My fingers were tired, but they still obeyed. I reached for the notepad. The pen moved. Passport folder. April read the words. Della read them. Silas, standing near the foot of the bed, went very still. That was when I understood the first real twist in my own story. Mallory had thought weakness would make me easy to move, but the hospital had written down that I was weak, not gone. By afternoon, the room had changed. Not the walls, not the machines. Me. A few hours earlier, I had been a body other people discussed around. Now my chart held a note that said I could answer, I could refuse, I could choose. That kind of truth does not make you strong all at once. It just gives your fear a chair to sit in. April Nash had stepped out to speak with Silas. Della checked on another patient. I was alone for the first time since writing those crooked words on paper. Then I heard Bryce in the hall. This time, he was not alone. "She looks fragile," Mallory whispered. "Do not upset her." That almost made me laugh. Some people will break your heart, then ask everyone else to be gentle with the pieces. The door opened. Bryce came in first, carrying shame on his shoulders like a wet coat. Mallory followed, neat as always, her purse tucked under one arm. Behind them came Tara. My Tara. 16 years old, too tall for the little girl I still kept in my memory, too young for the fear sitting in her eyes. She held a scrapbook against her chest. The cover was purple, with stickers peeling at the corners. I knew it before she reached the bed. We had made it at my kitchen table during a February snowstorm, back when she still called glitter magic dust and spilled it everywhere. "Hi, Grandma," she said. I tried to smile. My face did not quite obey. Bryce stepped closer. "Mom, Tara wanted to see you." Mallory placed one hand on Tara's shoulder. "Just a short visit," she said. "Grandma needs rest." Grandma. Not the old woman now. Not in front of the child. Tara opened the scrapbook on my blanket. There we were in photographs, me holding a burnt pie and laughing, Tara missing 2 front teeth, church picnic, her 5th grade award, a recipe card written in my hand, one picture of us in aprons, flour on both our faces. Ordinary proof. That is what family albums are. Proof that love happened before people started editing the story. Tara touched one picture. "Mom said you might not remember things the same way anymore." The room went still. There it was. Not nursing home, not discharge. Something worse. Mallory had carried her version of me into my granddaughter's heart. I looked at Bryce. His eyes dropped. That told me he knew. Maybe he had not said the words. Maybe he had only stood close while they were spoken. But silence is not empty. Silence can carry a lie from one room to another. I wanted to sit up. I wanted to reach for Tara, pull her close, and tell her I remembered every cookie she burned, every school concert where she searched the seats for me, every time she came to my porch because her parents were arguing and she needed quiet. My body gave me one hand, that was all. I reached for the pen. The room watched. Mallory said softly, "Miriam, maybe you should not strain yourself." Della had come back to the doorway. She did not interrupt. She simply stood there, witness again. I wrote slowly, "I am here." 3 words, crooked, shaking, enough. Tara read them once, then again. Her mouth trembled. "Grandma?" I turned my palm upward. She placed her fingers in mine, careful of the IV bruise. Her hand was warm, real. Mine to remember. Mallory smiled too quickly. "See, sweetheart, she is trying, but she is very weak. That is why we have to make safe choices." There it was again. Safety. A clean white cloth over a dirty table. Tara did not answer her. She kept looking at the paper. Bryce cleared his throat. "Mom, we just want you cared for." I wanted to say, then ask me. But anger takes breath, and I was saving mine. So I looked at him until he looked away. That was the first time I saw the crack in him. Not change, not yet. But shame had found a place to enter. Mallory closed the scrapbook gently, as if she had the right to end that moment. "We should let her rest." Tara leaned down. "Do you know me?" she whispered. My heart nearly tore loose. I squeezed her fingers once, then I tapped the page where I had written, "I am here." Tara cried then, not loudly, just one broken sound before she wiped her face with her sleeve. Mallory guided her toward the door. Bryce stayed back for 1 second. "Mom," he said. He had so many chances to finish that sentence. "I'm sorry. I should have stopped her. What do you want?" He chose none of them. "We'll be back tomorrow," he said. After they left, the room felt larger and colder. Della came in first. She did not say the usual things people say when they want to make pain smaller. April returned a few minutes later with Silas behind her. I pointed to the notepad. Della gave me the pen. My hand shook worse now, not from fever, from grief. Safe plan. Not here waiting. April understood. "You do not want to remain here until they return with placement papers." I nodded. Silas spoke carefully. "A safe discharge still requires medical clearance." "Good," I whispered. "Do it right." April's face softened. "We can explore a temporary recovery plan if your doctor agrees. Not home alone. Not a facility you refused. Somewhere documented." I wrote one name, Beverly, then another. Leah. April nodded. "I will call Beverly Knox, and if Leah Boone has documents, we will review them before any final discharge planning." For the first time all day, I looked toward the window instead of the door. I thought about the trip Beverly and I kept postponing. Maine in spring, salt air, a small cottage with no stairs, a place where nobody whispered outside a curtain and called it love. My body was weak. My heart was bruised. But after seeing Tara afraid to trust my memory, something inside me became clear as glass. I did not know yet how far I would go. I only knew I would not let Tara inherit a story where I disappeared while still breathing. No. That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to decide where I belonged. Beverly Knox arrived with rain on her coat and a canvas bag pressed against her hip. She stopped at the doorway first. She looked at my face, then my hands, then the monitor, as if she needed to count the pieces of me before trusting I was still there. "Miriam," she said. One word. My name sounded different in her mouth. Not like a case, not like a concern, like a person she had known through choir rehearsals, bad potluck coffee, and that old promise. Next spring. I tried to smile. It came out small. Beverly lifted the canvas bag. "You always said this folder was for emergencies," she said. "I guess this counts." Della stood near the foot of the bed. April Nash had pulled the rolling table close. Silas Ward waited by the wall, quieter than he had been with that facility packet in his hands. Beverly unzipped the bag. The burgundy passport folder came out first. I had seen it 100 times in my kitchen drawer, but under hospital lights, it looked almost strange. Like an ordinary object keeping a secret for me. April asked, "Mrs. Cole, do you consent to us reviewing these documents with you?" "Yes," I whispered. Inside was my passport, my state ID copy, my Medicare card copy, a medication list written in my own careful hand, a sheet with allergies and emergency contacts, Leah Boone's card, my advance directive, a trusted contact form naming Beverly Knox, and a signed instruction I had written after church one Sunday when a friend had come home from surgery and found her children arguing over her recovery like she was furniture being moved. April read the first line aloud. "No facility placement without a private conversation with me if I am awake and capable." The room went quiet. I looked at the paper and remembered writing those words at my kitchen table, never imagining I would need them with an IV in my arm. Beverly touched the edge of the folder. "You told me, if I ever sound scared, remind them I prepared before I was scared." That sounded like me. Stubborn. Practical. April turned another page. "This limits medical information release to people you authorize directly." "Yes," I said. "And this names Beverly Knox as trusted contact for medical and discharge discussions." "Yes." Silas cleared his throat. "The earlier packet was based on family-reported concerns. It was not final authorization." "Then update it," I said. My voice cracked, but it held. He nodded. "I will." April called Leah Boone from the room. Beverly held the phone near me until Leah's calm voice filled the speaker. "Miriam, can you hear me?" "Yes." "Good. I have your documents on file. I am sending the hospital a letter confirming that any facility placement must include a private conversation with you, and that Mallory Cole is not authorized to make placement decisions on your behalf." Hearing Mallory's name in that sentence did something to me. Not revenge. Not yet. Relief. Leah continued. "Bryce may receive information only if you approve it. He is your son, but he is not your voice unless you name him as such." That one hurt. Love does not automatically make a person safe. I had learned that late. April asked if I wanted Bryce told anything yet. I closed my eyes, not because I did not love him, because I knew my heart would excuse him before my body was safe. "Not yet," I said. Beverly squeezed my hand. Silas took the facility packet from the table and wrote a note across the top. Patient declines. Family-directed placement. Then another. Advocate and trusted contact involved. I watched him write. Paper did not love anybody, but paper remembered. Mallory had counted on the fog after my coma. She had counted on Bryce's silence. She had counted on staff being busy, on words like safety and rehab passing through the air without anyone stopping to ask who was being made safer. She had not counted on a burgundy folder. Beverly said, "We have the cottage." April looked up. Cottage? Coastal Maine, Beverly said. A friend, Mara Bell, rents a small recovery cottage in the off-season. Main floor bedroom. Bathroom with grab bars. No stairs to the bed. Visiting nurse service nearby. Telehealth follow-up available. Silas looked at April. That would need to be documented. Then document it, Beverly said. Della almost smiled. April asked me, "Is this a place you would choose for temporary recovery?" I thought of the trip I kept postponing. Salt air, gray water, a window not facing a parking lot, a room where nobody would lower their voice outside a curtain and decide where to put me. "Yes," I whispered. April wrote it down. Safe recovery plan proposed by patient and trusted contact. Not freedom yet. A bridge. The doctor came in later and made it plain. I was not leaving that minute. My labs needed review. I needed mobility help. I needed medication instructions and follow-up. Good. I wanted it done right. I was not running from care. I was running from being handled. By evening, the discharge plan had changed shape. The facility packet was no longer the road. It was evidence of a road someone tried to build without me. April asked, "If discharge is approved tomorrow or the day after, do you want a letter left for your family?" My chest tightened. A letter, not a fight, not a scene. A letter could say what my body could not stand long enough to say face to face. Beverly placed the pen in my hand. I did not write much at first, only names. Bryce, Mallory. Then I stopped. Because my son deserved truth, but not the softened kind. Mallory deserved consequences, but not my last ounce of breath. Leah's letter arrived before sunset. April confirmed it. Silas updated the record. Della checked the note twice and told me, "It is in the chart." In the chart. That phrase held me together. Beverly tucked the passport back into the burgundy folder, then left it on the table where I could see it. I watched the folder. Still, Mallory thought a coma had made me voiceless. She did not know I had left my voice in writing. When April asked if I was sure about the letter, I looked at the bed, the rail, the white pillow where my head had been trapped under everybody else's plans. "Yes," I said. "Let them find the bed first." Then I closed my eyes, and then let them read why it is empty. I was not there when Mallory walked into that hospital the next morning. That was the point. By then, Beverly Knox had driven me north with the passport folder in her tote bag and my discharge papers beside a thermos of tea. The doctor had signed. April Nash had documented. Silas Ward had updated the chart. Della Pike had squeezed my hand and said, "You are leaving the right way." The right way still hurt. I looked back at the hospital entrance, still wanting Bryce to run out and ask what he should have asked sooner. "Mom, what do you want?" He did not, so the car kept moving. While I watched Rhode Island fade into gray highway, Mallory was arriving with a folder of her own. April later told me what happened, and Bryce confirmed the rest. Mallory came dressed like a woman ready for a meeting. Smooth coat, phone in one hand, facility packet ready. Bryce followed behind her, pale and tired, carrying silence like proof. "We are here for Mrs. Cole," Mallory told the nurse station. "She is being transferred to the facility today." The nurse looked at the screen. Then she looked at Mallory. "Mrs. Cole has already been discharged." Mallory laughed once, not because it was funny, because her mind rejected it before her pride could catch up. "That is not possible," she said. "She cannot be discharged without us." April stepped out from the side office. "She was discharged under her own instructions," April said, "with her name trusted contact." Bryce asked, "Where is my mother?" April did not give him the address. "She is safe," April said, "and she left by choice." Mallory's voice sharpened. "She just came out of a coma. She does not know what she is choosing." Silas Ward came over, holding the updated notes. The chart reflects that Mrs. Cole was alert, oriented, and able to participate in discharge planning, he said. She declined family-directed facility placement. Family-directed. That phrase landed like a door shutting. Mallory looked past them toward my room. Maybe she thought I would still be there. Weak body, white sheets, old woman waiting. She went in anyway. The bed was empty. The blanket had been smoothed. The monitor was dark. The belongings bag was gone. And on the pillow was the envelope. Bryce picked it up first. His hand shook when he saw his name. Bryce and Mallory. Mallory reached for it. "Let me read it." For once, Bryce did not hand her something that belonged to me. He opened the letter himself. My handwriting was shaky, but it was mine. Bryce read the first line out loud. "Do not call this disappearance." His voice broke. He kept reading. "Call it the first decision I was allowed to make without someone lowering their voice outside my hospital curtain." Mallory said, "This is manipulative." April answered, "It is a patient statement." Bryce read on. "I heard you, Mallory. I heard old woman. I heard nursing home. I heard rehab used like a clean sheet over a decision I had not made." Mallory's face changed. Not guilt, exposure. Then came the line meant for my son. "Bryce, you did not say the cruelest words, but you stood close enough to stop them, and chose silence." He sat down on the visitor chair. His knees simply gave him the truth. Mallory tried again. "We were doing what was safe." April picked up the facility packet. "Mrs. Cole's safe plan is documented. Main floor recovery room, transportation by trusted contact, medication list, visiting nurse referral, telehealth follow-up, and attorney confirmation." Silas added, "The facility packet was preliminary and based on family-reported concerns. It was not consent." Consent. There was the word Mallory had avoided because it would have required me. Bryce looked at the packet in Mallory's hand, then at the letter, then at April. "Did she ask for me?" "She asked that you receive the letter," April said. "She will speak when she is ready." Mallory turned on him. "Bryce, don't let them do this. Your mother is vulnerable." He looked at her for a long time. For the first time, he did not look away. "She was vulnerable yesterday, too," he said, "and you called her old woman." Mallory went still. That was not redemption. Not yet. But it was the first crack in the wall she had built around him. April handed Bryce a second envelope. "This is from Leah Boone, Mrs. Cole's attorney. It explains updated medical release instructions and conditions for future contact." Mallory's mouth tightened. "Attorney?" "Yes," April said. "Mrs. Cole had one before this hospitalization." Bryce opened the second envelope. He read silently this time. Written apology. Counseling. No speaking over Miriam in medical or housing decisions. No patient portal access without written permission. Tell Tara the truth. Respect Beverly Knox and Leah Boone as contacts. Mallory tried to take the paper. Bryce pulled it back. "No," he said. One word. Late. Small. But his. "I wish I could tell you that healed me. It did not. A son saying no after his mother is gone from the room is not enough to erase the room he let her lie in. But justice does not always arrive as a thunderstorm. Sometimes it arrives as an empty bed, a missing passport, and a man finally realizing silence has consequences. By the time Bryce called Leah Boone, I was sitting in Beverly's passenger seat, watching the highway curve toward Maine. My body ached. My hands trembled. But the passport folder rested on my lap. Leah answered him on speaker, with me listening but not speaking. "Can I talk to my mother?" Bryce asked. Leah looked at me through the phone screen. I shook my head. "Not yet." Leah spoke clearly. "Your mother will speak when she is ready. First, she asked me to send you one more document." Bryce whispered, "What document?" Leah said, "The conditions for any path back to her." The cottage in Maine was not a vacation. I want to be honest about that. I did not arrive there dancing with freedom in my hands. I arrived tired, sore, and scared of my own knees. Beverly helped me up the 2 little steps like I was carrying glass inside my bones. Maribel had left a lamp on, a clean quilt folded at the foot of the bed, and a note that said, "Rest first. Explain later." That sounded like mercy. The bedroom was on the main floor. The bathroom had grab bars. A visiting nurse came twice that first week and spoke to me like I was a woman recovering, not a package delivered to the wrong address. My follow-up visits were done by telehealth until I could ride safely again. Beverly kept my pills in a tray by the kettle and wrote down every dose with the seriousness of a choir director counting measures. The passport folder stayed on the table. Burgundy. Plain. Powerful. Mallory was removed from my patient portal and medical contacts through the proper forms. Leah Boone handled the letters. April Nash sent copies of the patient rights notes and the discharge record. Silas Ward corrected the file so the facility packet could not follow me like a shadow. It was not revenge in the noisy way. It was cleaner than that. It was my name placed back where it belonged. Bryce did not hear my voice for several days. He called Leah first, then Beverly. Then he stopped calling and sent a letter, because that was one of the conditions. His handwriting looked like a boy trying to be a man. He wrote, "I did not protect you." He wrote, "I let fear make me quiet." He wrote, "I will tell Tara the truth." I read it twice. Then I put it down. Forgiveness when you are older is not the same as reopening every door. Sometimes it is simply deciding not to let bitterness sleep in your room. I agreed to speak with Bryce after he scheduled counseling, I told him Mallory would not be part of any medical, housing, or financial decision concerning me. Not now. Not later. Not through him. He cried. I let him. Tara called me the next Sunday. She held the scrapbook in her lap. "Grandma," she whispered, "Dad told me you were never gone." I looked at her face on the screen and touched the passport folder with one hand. "I remembered you, baby," I said. I remembered myself, too. That was the healing I wanted. Not a perfect family, a truthful one. Mallory sent one message through Bryce saying I had embarrassed everyone. I did not answer. A woman who called my removal safety did not get to define my dignity. If she ever wanted a road back, it would begin with accountability, not explanations. By May, I could walk from the bedroom to the porch with a cane. The sea air was cold enough to wake my lungs. Beverly sat beside me with tea and said, "Your passport finally got some respect." I laughed. It hurt a little. Worth it. Quiet peace. When I returned to Providence for a short visit, I spoke at my church senior group. I called it the Passport Folder Plan. Not because everyone needs to travel, because everyone deserves proof that their life still belongs to them. I told them to keep copies of their ID, insurance card, medication list, advance directive, trusted contact, attorney card, and patient portal instructions. I told them to choose someone who has no profit in their silence. I told them temporary rehab can help a body heal, but long-term placement should never be whispered into existence behind a curtain. And I told them this: safety without consent is not care. Family love does not cancel a person's voice. Being weak in a hospital bed did not make me less of a woman. It only showed me who still remembered I was one. I did not run away because I was weak. I left because survival is not always staying where people expect to find you. Sometimes survival is leaving with your name, your papers, and your voice still in your own hands. Thank you for watching and sitting with my story today. Please tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is where you are right now. If this story touched you, even a little, please subscribe to Final Act Revenge. Another story is waiting for you on your screen. YouTube thinks you may enjoy it. So take care of yourself, settle in, and enjoy.